Hello, how you doing? Welcome back. Right, so today we are going to show you how to tie the mono rigs up. So that's what they are. This was the first version I came up with before I added the mono for the tail attachments. I actually fished this one more than the other one because I really just like using flashabou a lot. And I can achieve real big flies with skinny profiles using flashabou. And anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute and we'll go through the fly. But this is the rig. As you can see, it's a shank, a homemade shank. You won't be able to buy these, you have to make them on the Ahrex Texas 5.0. Now what I do with the Texas is I bend it, so when it rides in the water, the actual point is higher. And the reason I tie them on tubes with a shank in the front is so I've got lots of clearance here to get good hookups. Now, over the last couple of months, I think I've missed about 2 fish out of about 20. So for me, that's proof enough that I get good hookups with these. I haven't tried them when they're not bent. I want to give myself maximum chance of hooking up with that hook point higher. I also don't pick up debris and stuff because I fish these very deep. And you know, if you're catching weed and twigs and all the debris on the riverbed or the lake bed, it's annoying. So I don't snag on these, I don't catch any debris. So they're really good flies to try, especially when it's very weedy. Or when you're fishing very deep near the bottom. So I'll show you quickly how they're rigged. And there's a couple of key points that you need to be aware of. So what I do, so I tend to fish them mostly on Bauer style tubes with a cone head, so I can get them down deeper. The hook is riding up because it's a weedless. All I do is thread the shank through, and it has to come over the eye. Now I've seen a fair few people tie these and they're not locking them with the hook eye. And if you don't lock them with the hook eye, I'll show you an example. I'll pull it out, it's quite stiff in there. That hook will just lay flat and you lose to the potential for hooking up. You must lock that hook eye so that hook is locked. And as you can see there's plenty of hook exposed to get a decent hookup. The other advantage of fishing these over the standard rigs is because you're using a shank, you've got an eye you can clip on quickly. You haven't got to mess about taking the tube off, the hook off and threading it through the leader and that stuff. So you've got an eye you can attach. Also, if you want to add extra weight like I have done here, you can wrap lead around the hook shank. So that's all I've done. So we'll go through that and how to tie these next, and then after that we'll tie a simple Bauer style tube with a cone head. Okay, to make shanks what you need 4 tools. The most important one is a 1-step looper. This one makes a 2.25mm loop. Now I don't use the looper for cutting the wire because they won't last very long then, so if you want to get through them very quick, use the cutter. If you don't use it. Now I make my shanks slightly differently to maybe the shop bought ones from Flyman, so and obviously this video is to show you how to make those. Next you need a wire cutter and also a round nose pliers. These are just jewellery ones, and occasionally you'll need a pair of pliers. Not all the time, but it really depends on how well the shank making goes. Now for the wire that I use most is 0.8mm. Now I make shanks for beast flies and also the mono rig. Now the mono rig is best it's best to make shanks 0.8 millimeter, not 1 millimeter, 0.8 millimeter, as otherwise you'll struggle feeding the shank through the tube. So this is stainless steel. I just get it off eBay. There are numerous places you can buy it from. It's fairly stiff material, doesn't corrode, as it's stainless steel. So the first thing we do, take our wire and just cut what we need to make the shank. Now I want these shanks quite big, 30-40 millimeters. So next what we do is we want to make the ends exactly the same in terms of the way we're making the loop. So I'm taking my round nose pliers and just using my thumb to force that wire back. And I go to the other end. Now this shank's going to be 40 millimeters. I want to turn that shank round so it's 90 degrees to the other bend and just force that wire up like that. So what you end up with is something like this. Now take your one-step looper. We're going to form the first loop. So feed it in. Hold both ends so that they don't cross, and then gently close. And there we go, we've made our first loop. Now while you can see that, we'll take our other end, hold both ends, and there we go. So by making the shank this way, it's a lot stronger. Typical shanks that you buy have the eye closed off here, so they're not quite as strong. With these, we're tying both tag ends down after attaching it to the hook. Take your hook. Now I've had a few break, not many, so just do it gently. If it breaks, it's not a strong enough hook. Bend it back, and what you're looking for, how well you can see, is the eye shank piece needs to be sort of center to the point, between the point and the bend. Alright, and then take our shank, thread it through, the right way, so facing down, put that into your vise, making sure it's secure. Take some thread, start tying down, crisscross, come back, make sure it's completely covered. Now what I like to do, depends which rig I'm tying. If I'm tying the rigs with tails, I tend to put lead wire wrapped around the base of the shank just to make that tube sink, because I don't tend to weight those tubes too much. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In terms of keel weight for the hook, you can add keel weight here. I do that on the tail version. I don't find I need it on the cone head version, so I don't tend to bother. But you can add it, see what works for you. So we're going to add some lead around the shank near the eye. And what that does as well, it just thickens up the shank so it fits snugly into the tube. That's all you need. We're just adding a bit more weight in addition to these cone heads, so we get a good nice fast jig. We want to make sure we wrap over that, build a dam in front of it so it doesn't slip, come over again, a dam behind. like so, and then we'll finish. That's now purely optional, is to colour it in black. You won't see this anyway because it's covered, but being a perfectionist, I like to not take shortcuts. Just give it a quick coat with a Sharpie pen. Just looks nicer then, doesn't it? Looks a bit more professional. And all we do after that is take you can put super glue on here, zap a gap, or like I do, because I can't use super glue, just put liquid fusion over the thread to make sure it's not exposed. And it creates that nice strong connection then. I wouldn't use UV resin on this because it won't last as long. And that's it. So that's the rig finish. It takes minutes to make. And we just let that dry before we use it. So what we're going to use is a classic Pro Sport Fisher tube in the Predator size, so that's 4.8 millimeters. And I do different colours, so I'm using black because it's a black fly, but it doesn't really matter. So what I've done is cut about 2.5 inches off, and I've just melted the end before I've mounted it on the dubbing needle. That way, it stops it splitting, because they're quite soft tubes. You need quite soft tubes for this rig. So I'm just going to start my thread. You just need fairly strong thread. I'm using GSP 100, 150 is fine as well. So put a thread base down. So we want to come to about halfway. Put plenty of thread down so we don't get any slips, any material slipping. Like that. And then we put a little bit of glue down. I mean, you can put zap a gap on here now if you want, because that dries quick, but I've got liquid fusion. So I'm just going to put a little bit where I'm going to tie my first materials into. So for this fly, it's very simple in terms of materials. All we're going to be using is flashabou, bucktail, and a little bit of nyat as well on the head. So I'm going to use the Magnum flashabou, and this is hollow black. So take a good generous amount, about that much, and it's up to you how much you want to add, or how add little. So I'm just going to lay that down, and I'm going to take some, losing half of it all over my lap here. I'm going to take some standard Magnum in black as well. Now this doesn't quite have as much flash, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that just to mix up the materials. I'm going to lay that down, and you want the full length of this, because this is quite a large fly. It's about 12 inches, so we're looking to taper those ends. So give it a mix with your thumb and just pull some of those fibres down so there's no straight edges there. You can always trim it afterwards if it doesn't look nice, but then it's easier to taper it before you tie it in. Now we're looking to tie it down this side longer than that side, so we're looking probably at 60-40. So lay that on top and just slowly use your thumb to wrap it round the tube. If any catch, just move them out of the way. So it's quite a tricky task tying this in because the material is quite long. So that's spread around nicely around the tube, mostly on the top, but we have some underneath as well. So we're just going to tease that back and then tie down to make sure that flash is secure. I come forward, get your Sharpie pen and just colour that white thread in, and just use your clip to get that flash to behave, because it's not behaving for me. There we go, and a little bit of glue over the top, just to make sure that flash is properly secured, and also the thread wraps are protected. Next we need some bucktail. So I'm going to take my longest black bucktail and take a generous amount off. As usual with bucktail, just get rid of those short under fibres. Quite a few in there. I need a little bit more than that. So basically we're tying a Bauer rig, a Bauer tube rather, and the very, very simple bucktail and flashabou flies, very effective. Tie them in various colours and whatever. So just take the bucktail, and we're gonna hollow tie this. So lay that down, a few thread wraps over the top, and then just use your thumb to push it round the tube to make sure it's all distributed evenly. So the bucktail creates the volume that we need for the flash. So tie that down, take your push tool, and create a dam in front. You can go over the top like that if you want to, but we're just going to create a dam. Doesn't take too many thread wraps to get it to lay flat. Lay at the angle that we want. That's about right. It's up to you how skinny or how fat you want to tie them. These are fairly skinny flies because we're using a fair bit of flash over the top. I'll take some more Magnum. Good generous amount. I can't tell you how many fibres there are, probably about 15. Same again for the standard black. Lay that on top, and we're going to take a little bit off the length of this one, so we'll take a good 3 or 4 inches off. So we're going to try and achieve a taper with the flash as we tie the fly. So just use your thumb to move those fibres around so they're all blended in nicely. Give them a good taper, like so. Check them. So again, we're going to go about 60-40. So we're going to lace them on top, and then we're going to spread it around the hook. So the hook, the shank, the tube, can't talk today. Like so. So it's a good spread. Wrap it down. Doesn't have to be too tidy. I get beaten up so quick anyway. And we're just going to manipulate that flash back and tie that down. Just like that. There we go. I come forward. A fair way, probably about 1 centimetre. We're just going to colour that thread in. Like so. Get some glue. Like that. Let's use your clip to keep that material in place. So next we're going to take some more bucktail. And we're going to create a collar. So again, a good generous amount. Take the other fibres out, they'll get in the way, we don't need those. My bucktails just to create the volume of the fly. Maybe a little bit too much in there, let's take some of that out. And lay that on top. A few wraps round and just push it down so it goes all the way around the tube like that. Hold your butts, pull tight, make sure it's secure. Now if your butts are too long, remember we want this tube to sink quite fast, so we want to take out some of these fibres because they will trap the air and make it sink slower. So we want to take some of these butts down a little bit. Of course you can leave them in, you can tie this as a bulkhead as well if you want to. If you want the fly to sink slower, it really depends on your water. I want these to sink quite fast and have that nice fast jiggy action. So I'm just going to use my push tool to push this back. And just press down on those fibres, they're quite stiff ones these. So we might have to create a substantial dam here, we'll see. There we go, that's about right. Right, take some more flashaboo. Again, we need a generous amount. That's where we get the movement of this fly, it's the flashaboo. You can add feathers to this as well if you like. I mean, this is just a very simple fly to tie quickly. And we're also going to take some standard size, and I've run out of that, so I've just got a spool of flash here, which I should have prepared earlier, but I didn't. So I'm just going to quickly grab some. I'm just going to cut that in half. And I'm going to take a little bit off the end, we don't quite need that much. And I'm going to add it to the Magnum flash. And I'm just going to spin that around so it's all nicely blended. And get rid of any super long ones. And again, we just need to taper our ends. That looks pretty good. I'll lay that on top, 60-40. I'm just going to wrap it all the way around actually, so let me just do that so we can grab it. Come on. Making a bit of a hash of this one. Here we go. Just check you've got a good distribution, even distribution of flash. I'm a little bit lopsided to this one. Let's move it around. There we go. And just use your push tool just to push that material back. You could always come through with the scissors if you trap any. Perfect. There we go. Next we're going to use a little bit of nyatt. This is Big Streamer's nyatt. If anyone wants to know where they get it from. Very, very good nyatt here. Always good quality. Take a generous amount. We want to just, because I don't want too much bulk in the head of this fly, I'm just going to take some of the under fur out of the base. just going to lay that flat. Also, I'm going to take some very fine flash, a little bit like Angelina, again if it's from Pro Sport Fisher. It's called Pro Angel hair. So this is the various black versions. I've just got the standard black here with no other flashes into it. Just take a generous amount, lay that on top of your nyack, and then just work the material in. What we're looking to do here is just blend the materials up and just create a natural taper to it. I think that's pretty good. So take any super long ones like that, put some glue down all the way around. We want to make sure this is all secured. And we want to take our tips first. Just get the comb and just give that a brush through. There we go. We want to wrap this all the way around. Like that. Quick finish. Now the glue has seeped through the nyack, so we don't need to put any more glue down here. You can if you want to. I'm just going to manipulate that back. Make sure we've got good even coverage on top. So next we're going to take one of our cone heads. Now this is again Pro Sport Fisher. So this is the gunmetal Predator cone head, and they're 12mm. So we're going to take the tube off the needle, and then we're going to slot the cone, if I don't lose it, over the top, so it forces that material back. And the next step is to get a lighter and just melt the end. Just force it back, and that holds the cone in place. It doesn't slip off then. Perfect, there we go. Now what I tend to do now, just give it a little brush. And that is it. So we don't want these too big and bulky because we want them to sink. So that's one to try. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe. I can never say that. Give us a like, leave us a comment, and I'll chat to you on the next one. Cheerio. Right, the first thing we need to do is grab your hook and your pliers, put the eye into the flat bit of your pliers, and then, oh, bollocks. Take two. I've only had 3 of those ever do that.